Okay, Ian, we're ready to go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are the Owatonna School Board. It is Monday. It's the 25th of September. School is well underway. It's 5:30 p.m. To call this meeting to order. Eric, our attendance?
Perfect attendance by everyone.
Well, here, let's start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, we will start with an approval of the agenda. We'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody have anything to change? Any reason we need to pull anything out? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We have mission moment as item number 4. And Mr. Elstad, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, tonight's mission moment is based on high quality teaching and learning. And I wanted to, we are lifting up Carter Hansen this month. Carter is a senior at Owatonna High School and is a National Merit semifinalist. Carter is the son of Chad and Stephanie Hansen and has been named a semifinalist in the 2024 competition for National Merit Scholarships. Carter was among over 1.3 million students to take the PSAT in the fall of 2022. His score was one of the top few in the state of Minnesota, with only 16,000 semifinalists from throughout the country. At Owatonna High School, Carter has been involved in symphony orchestra, concert choir, dinner ensemble, marching band, jazz band, pep band, winter drumline, NHS, robotics, mock trial, YOLO, youth-oriented leadership organization, Knowledge Bowl, and speech. Very involved students. He is a PSEO student at the University of Minnesota, where he is currently taking German and multivariable calculus.
Of course he is.
Unfortunately, Carter is unable to be with us tonight because he has class at the University of Minnesota on Monday evenings. But I would like to lift up and give a round of applause to Carter for this accomplishment in putting Owatonna High School on the map for academic excellence.
That is very nice. We don't have anybody here representing.
We do not.
Okay.
We do not. Carter made a tough choice, but he said he had a class with one of his multivariable calculus courses tonight. He said, I cannot miss a lecture. Someday,
Sounds like
he'll be
him.
inventing the mission to Mars or something. It will, yeah.
Okay, item number 5 is public forum. Sir, do we have any cards? No. Okay, just want to double check and make sure if anybody came in and wanted to. All right, we're going to move on. Item 6 is the reports. Once again, item A under this is the learn and earn. I'm going to turn it back over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So I've been talking about our Learn and Earn initiative, and this is a collaboration between the Owatonna Area Chamber of Commerce as well as Riverland Community College and the Owatonna Public Schools. The document that you see on your screen tonight is just simply a visual representation of the way that we are structuring the Learn and Earn initiative. If you recall, last legislative session, Senator Jasinski and Representative Petersburg were instrumental in lifting up legislation to give us about $1 million worth of deed funding to help us with this initiative. About $900,000 of that goes into our career advisory program, namely the mechatronics lab and equipment for that lab. So I'm going to just step you through this document so that you're clear on kind of what these mean. So there is a very small steering committee, meaning that myself and Brad Meyer from the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Barb Embacher, who's the Vice President for Academic Affairs from Riverland, are leading the steering committee. And again, our focus is to simply provide resources to support Learn and Earn, but also general oversight and communication. If you go a little further down, about $100,000 of that $1 million that was granted to us is seed money for what we're calling the Owatonna Opportunity Scholarship Fund. What this, and I think I lifted this up to you before, this is an initiative to take all financial barriers away from our students that are interested in attaining a degree from Riverland Community College, meaning that every graduate, and we're actually starting it, we believe, with the class of 2024 and beyond, will have an opportunity to attend and attain their associate's degree at Riverland tuition free. We recognize that as this was all coming into play, the North Star Promise that has now been put into place by the legislature really addresses families that have a family income of less than $80,000 can attend tuition free. But one of the other barriers to that scholarship is it does not add any dollars for things like putting gas in your car, living expenses, and sometimes those become barriers for students being able to attend. Could be daycare expenses in there as well. So the Owatonna Opportunity Scholarship Advisory Group is really comprised of chamber board members, some school district administration and counseling, namely from the high school, that are helping to facilitate the filling out of the FAFSA and all of the pieces that are necessary for that, as well as Riverland Community College administration, mostly working in their financial office there to help with this. This is considered what they call a last dollar scholarship. So what this covers is as students are applying and filling out the FAFSA, if they are eligible for some sort of financial aid, within that, if something is not covered by financial aid, this is where that Owatonna Opportunity Scholarship kicks in. So it's really taking all barriers away, which eventually will help as we start to further align career pathways and utilizing Riverland as our post-secondary partner. The next piece over where you see Career Pathways Advisory Council, this really is looking at how do we continue to align what is industry or what industry needs, the programming and pathways creation to create job opportunities for our students locally. Again, this is an initiative that hopefully keeps students local. Not that we're not saying students can't go elsewhere and work, but we'd sure like to keep them here because our employers need them here. And so the membership within that are chamber representatives, again, school district admin as well as Riverland admin. And mostly when we talk about administration of Riverland, it's really the dean of the separate programs. So the dean of the nursing program, Chris Wolf, is significantly involved with that. But now we're evolving into our advanced manufacturing pathway, which will include, I think it's Kay Nelson, that's the admin for that program. But anyway, we're really looking at how do we align with industry to continue to not only look at what pathways have been created, but what will be necessary going into the future as those sort of job opportunities come up. And then lastly, as sort of a subsidiary, if you will, of that Career Pathways Advisory Council are two critical groups of practitioners. So the secondary program advisories are really including our English, manufacturing, tech, and ag staff, along with health science and all of those sort of courses of study, if you will, that are present in the high school right now. And then tying that together with the post-secondary program advisories. And again, these would be the folks from Riverland. Within, though, also other regional industry experts coming in to really provide sort of the critical nuts and bolts for the curricula as it's prepared for students, to make sure that it's industry standard, to make sure that they're doing the right safety trainings and so on. So it's all interconnected. We have been, like I said, the Chamber and Riverland have been great supporters of this initiative moving forward. And at our last meeting, I shared with you that I would be highlighting the progress that we've made. I feel really strongly that this is really going to be a model for other school districts across the state to use as we continue to kind of walk down this path of best preparing our students. So at this point, I would entertain any questions or clarifications that I might for the board.
What do you need from us?
This is just a briefing for you, so I just want to make sure you are aware. There's no ask. Maybe I'll say yet. There's no ask with this, but this is just to keep you kind of in tune as to what I am working on with our community as well as members of our staff.
Thank you for this work. Yeah. Specifically the Opportunity Scholarship. That has positive generational impact on our kids and their families. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. It's that vision of pre-K 14 school because 12 is great and we want kids to get their high school diploma, but we know now that the workforce and or other skills are necessary, and when we can start that in high school and continue that journey, that's the goal.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Jeff, would it be fair to say, I heard you say last dollar scholarship. So what I infer from that is that in a sense, this also compels students to engage, right, in other resources that are available already.
Absolutely.
That maybe they would not have considered or wouldn't have pursued. And with these additional resources and the FAFSA and grants and so on, it might be that this scholarship is just a small portion of the total, but in fact, they're pushed, right?
Right, to look for other avenues first.
Yes.
But we don't want then to get to the end of that being a barrier to say, well, I just couldn't get the finances across the finish line. I might add with this, and I think I had shared with the board earlier, kind of the tenets of the Owatonna opportunity. The students will have skin in the game. They have to put in 40 volunteer hours in the community, and we're working with the United Way of Steele County to use Volunteers United to help students track their hours. But they also have to be a student in good standing, meaning that their attendance has been good. Didn't say GPA, but that their attendance is good and that they're a student in good standing and that they had in their high school career that they were able to go to classes and do their very best work. So,
Anybody else? Hearing none, good luck.
thank you.
And we look forward to more.
Thanks.
Yes, we do. Item 7 tonight is just the general information. As part of your packet, you had the enrollment report. Anybody have any questions with regard to what was made available?
Maybe just a comment. I mean, we've talked about this topic being one of our objectives, but when you look at the
Lincoln.
the elementary school enrollment, I mean, it's quite clear that we're out of balance. And I know Mr. Elsted knows that. So we got more to come on that.
Yeah, which obviously at our last meeting,
Laid the
we're
groundwork.
continuing to study and do the groundwork for looking at our elementary boundaries. Elementary and Wilson, if you look at the two, I think there's over 160 student difference between the two buildings. And we do our very best to balance them. It isn't always, but what we're running into now is space issues, and then having space in your building that isn't unused. And we're not seeing a huge rise in elementary students moving in the district, but we're seeing movement within our community, which impacts the resources that are available at each of those sites. So,
Questions, anybody? Okay, hearing none. Item 8 tonight, no action required. The first would be board forum. Jolene, do you mind if I start down on your, or I'm sorry, Deborah, do you mind? Anything for board forum?
Saturday was awesome. I think our event was very well attended. Had a number of people who came up and commented about how wonderful things were and how big everything was, and some people had some questions, but it was good.
I echo that exact same thing. Great day.
Again, what else can you say? I don't know how many people went through that building, but
It was a lot.
I was trying to count heads, and needless to say,
It was a lot. I'm going to echo the sentiments that you have shared. 3 people, Lori Bugler, Sarah Hoffman, Corey Kath. I thought that the 3 of you just did spectacular work to make it a day that just really flowed. As I read the agenda for the day, I thought, boy, this is aggressive. I don't know how we're going to get all this stuff done, but it got done. It was terrific, and thanks to all 3.
if I may, I had one hospital administrator say to me, whose idea was it to stagger these ribbon cuttings? And I said, well, I think that was Lori Bugler. And she said, she is a genius. She was impressed, and I know Stephanie's seen a few, so.
Agreed.
Well, I don't want to pile on. Looking forward to next weekend in homecoming and all the things that go along with that.
Great.
Fabulous Saturday, homecoming coming up. It's been a great week to come.
Just again on Saturday, I thought it was a lot of fun, absolutely. And I just want to recognize that I think I am enjoying the fruits of the labor of all of you that went before. And I felt honored and privileged to be there with the ribbon cuttings, and just because I got to come on in the fun part and you all did all the hard work with that. I would also just like to read a quick 2.5-minute statement that I wrote up, not asking for any discussion tonight, but just a statement. I've been on the school board for about 9 months. During this time, we've reviewed several policies. The policies are updated by the policy committee to reflect changes in laws, and then we as a board read them and approve them. Most, if not all, of our policies are copied from the Minnesota School Board Association Model Policies Guide. I've been taught that the school board works on district governance and not district management. The board's work is in policy, and I've been told that policies are meant to solve problems. I've also been taught that policies need to be carefully chosen and worded, first to follow federal and state laws, and second, so that we do not open the door for any unfair or unjust perceptions or treatment. In addition to solving problems, policy can serve as guidance and boundaries. One of the positive outcomes of having boundaries is prevention of problems. It is proactive. I've been told that our current board has never created new policy, and at this point, I'm not sure that we need a new policy, but I do believe that we need to discuss topics that our community is concerned about. And out of those discussions, we can determine if new policy is needed or current policy needs amending. Simply having me or any one person present an idea to the policy committee for consideration really does not allow the full board to work collectively as it was meant to do. Also, I believe just a few board members having a discussion about a topic is not fully utilizing the board the way it was created to work. We are a collective group of 7 board members with different perspectives, and each of us representing constituents. We have more than 5,000 students and adults walking through our school doors and hallways, each one of them with a personal perspective, belief system, political view, and moral foundation. We are allowed and should have these differences. As a public school district, it's our duty to welcome everyone into a safe environment, and one of our strategic goals is to have a safe and caring environment. The only way that all can feel welcome and safe is by remaining neutral in areas of ideologies and political views. With this in mind, I have concerns that our district may not have guidelines for the speech and displays within our schools. I've been told that our teachers can display things like signs and flags in the classroom as long as the teaching itself is not biased one way or another and all aspects of a topic are taught. The constitutional right to free speech allows us as Americans to speak and display what we want in our personal spaces, such as our homes and vehicles, and even on our children. However, when working for a public entity that is funded by taxpayers and government, it is of utmost importance that we remain neutral. This neutrality needs to be reflected in speech, displays, and clothing while working as an Owatonna Public School employee and using the physical property of Owatonna Public Schools. Requiring our staff, teachers, physical buildings to remain neutral in areas of ideologies, political views, religion, and personal beliefs, including sexuality, does not violate the First Amendment freedom of speech rights. Other districts in Minnesota have taken a viewpoint neutral stance, and I would like to see Owatonna Public Schools do the same. I simply request that the board have this discussion at a future school board meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Erin?
Switching notes, robotics did pack out today, which was super fun in the pouring rain, which was a little complex with a bunch of electrical equipment also being transported. Student council has been working super hard to try and get homecoming on the parade route, so I'm excited to see that all come together. And as Juan mentioned, I also saw cheer practicing today in the lunchroom when I was doing robotic stuff. So a lot of stuff in full swing right now.
Cool. Thank you.
I had an incredible opportunity to speak to community members and individuals who had a variety of questions on the 23rd. The open house sought hundreds of people seeking to understand the building and the space, so I thought that was an incredible opportunity for me to speak to others. I'm excited for homecoming week, and with the homecoming week, Magnet is in full force. So our student newspaper is going to be releasing our releasing our homecoming coverage, our new teachers coverage, and so that's going to be our first run in a sense. It's going to be the first batch of stories, and so I'm excited as an editor to see how the stories are perceived. That's all I have.
Jace, nice work on Saturday. Thank you. Mr. Elstad, anything to add? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We'll come to you in just one second. Policy revisions is the next item. Number 1, policy revisions. This is the first reading. Lori, are you going to speak about the overview of this?
Sure. If you see the first attachment, you'll see the primary changes. Again, nothing particularly noteworthy. I guess I would just, call out that, again, the policy committee functions as prescribed as we, move through all of these things. So this is the first reading for folks. Interestingly, and good for them, I had a constituent through Jolene reach out to me with a proposed change or edit, and I thought it was appropriate. So I will be making that. It's not particularly significant. It was actually an oversight, I think, by the committee. So that sits in the electronic technologies acceptable use policy. And there's a phrase in there, if you go through the edits, we were referring to cell phones and other electronic devices. And in one instance, we failed to identify cell phones as part of that phrase. So I'll make that edit and we'll get that published for the next reading. But other than that, I don't have any other comments on this.
I don't either. I just think the community member approached me on
Yes.
Saturday at the open house and said, so I was reviewing the policies. And I said, thank you for reviewing the policies. Thank you for paying attention and reviewing the policies. And this is just the semantics that I found. And so people are watching the community, they're looking, they're paying attention. So that's as they should. So it's awesome.
Anybody have any questions with regard to anything that you saw this first reading? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Elstad, administrative report.
The administrative report, this month, there's a few different items I'd like to comment on. First of which, last week, we met with city and county officials to get a roundabout update on the roundabout of Bixby Road and 18th Street. We're still on target for an early November completion there. Things seem to be kind of going along as scheduled right now, which is really great, so that's kind of still our plan. I believe that the roundabout, the three legs, so the one coming from the north on Bixby, and the one leaving on Bixby, that one plus 18th Street, those three legs will be completed. There is a fourth leg that right now the railroad is still having some issues with, but nonetheless, that road doesn't have a whole lot of traffic on it, and I think they're working with constituents that might be living or need access to that road somehow, some way. But what I will state is that the three most prominent legs will be available by early November, according to the current plan. Old Owatonna High School auction, October 4th is the last auction day, which I think is next Tuesday, I believe, or Wednesday. And that will be the last day. I will just tell you that as of October 8th then will be the last day for folks that have purchased things to pick them up. October 9th, that site will be transitioning to a full construction site. So there will be perimeter fencing going up. They're starting to abate the asbestos at that time on the site. And so that will become a closed site to the public as we work through that asbestos abatement as well as the rest of the project. Number three is this morning we were alerted by the Minnesota Department of Education that the proposed K-12 standards for social studies have started their 30-day comment as of today. And we will be communicating that to our parents and through our connections to our staff. There is a link if you wanted to review the social studies standards as well as provide commentary. The department is taking commentary, and actually it's the Office of Administrative Hearings is the one that takes the comment in, and then those are provided to the committee comprised by the Department of Education to discuss the K-12 social studies standards that came from our last legislative session. Next item, October 10th at our work session will be an operational plan update. So myself and the other cabinet members will be here to provide you updates in their respective areas. And then lastly, I agree that it was a very successful open house. I'm going to guess we had somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 people come through on Saturday. And I think that it was just a great event for our community, and there were some non-community members that came as well that wanted to see the space, including some that are hopeful that they would pass a bond referendum in their community. They wanted to see what it looks like when it's good to be on the other side of that at times. So
It's very
anyway,
good.
that concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Elstad?
David, just a comment, I appreciate the next work session, that's a Tuesday,
Yes, it's a Tuesday. That's
not a
correct.
Monday. We talked about that at our last work session, so we just want to call that out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on. Item 9 tonight is the consent agenda. Again, we are approving the minutes from August 28 and September 11, the disbursement personnel report. Anybody have any reason to pull any of these items out? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. I'll ask Eric to do the roll call.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Deborah?
aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I myself is an aye, 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 10, and we're now into the area where board action is required. Item A would be the Steele County Children's Mental Health Collaborative. Mr. Elstad, if you would, please.
Yeah, and I'm going to quickly turn this over to Dr. Knudsen. She is our, as you have met her, our new Director of Special Services, and is working with this particular area. So if you'd like to come up to the table, if you would, Sarah, and give us a little background as to this agreement.
Just really on the spot. I'm learning this as we go, so I might need help here, right? So this is the collaborative agreement, and there are lots of layers to this, but this is just the working service agreement. So to me, nothing stood out here. We this grant is about $65,000, and it covers costs of social workers across the district. So I don't know. If you want or need any more detail, you.
And the only other comment I would make is that we have been part of this collaborative before and have been for many years. This is just something that as we continue to look at those agreements coming forward, this isn't just an operation of the board because it does require board signatures on the agreements. So that's why it's being lifted up to you for your consideration.
Do you have any questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So is money flowing to us or away from us?
To us.
Oh, it is a grant. Okay, I misunderstood. I think when I read it, and the nature of an agreement made me think we were
It
providing services.
It sort of reads like we're paying that, but in fact, it's a grant.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't read it that way because I knew that it wasn't that way, but yes.
Okay, great. So, well, yeah, money in is good and social services are good, so
Need 'em.
that was my primary
We need it.
question.
One of you be kind enough to introduce this motion.
I move that the board approve the agreement with the Steele County Children's Mental Health Collaborative.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B, policy revisions. This is the second reading and consideration for approval. We do have all three of our representatives to the policy committee here. Do any of you have any questions with regard to the policies as presented?
Yes.
Deborah?
Item 2, general statement of policy. E,
Deborah, which policy are you
Where are
on? Policy number what?
the one about education, the,
102?
yeah, you probably call it that.
They have numbers.
It's 2 on the thing, general statement of policy.
Equal education.
Equal education opportunity, yes?
Yeah. And going down to E with the paragraphs that were added. Number 1, whether the opportunity for all genders to participate in the athletic program reflects the demonstrated interest of athletics in the student body of the educational institution. I really want something in there that says that those who are biologically male will be participating in athletics with biological males and females with females.
Policy committee folks? You provide some insight?
The question is, how do we change that to read that way? I don't want, and I'm not the only one that does not want transgender women, girls, competing against biological girls.
I wonder, well, I appreciate you raising the question. This is the first we've heard of it. So this is probably not the best time to vet the whole issue. Nonetheless, I think we do certainly have Minnesota State High School League rules that apply to us. And we'd have to do a little further clarification about, but I believe that's the source of the majority of this. Would you agree, Mr. Elstead? Do you have any insight?
This is actually out of Title IX, which is a
Yep.
federal law. And these are adjustments that were made to Title IX by the federal government. And that's why policy, and our policies have to align with state and federal law. So
I
that's
don't
why-
want boys on those girl teams. Those girls work so hard to get their numbers up and to become very good in their sports. They don't need to have male bodies, which are stronger, faster. The muscle, the skeletal development of those people is different. And it puts a terrible, crushing disability against girls and women.
But again, Deborah, I think the issue here is that whether any of us agree with you, disagree with you, the point is in our role as a governing board, if we don't approve and we take opposite positions to this kind of language, we're going to lose federal funding. We're going to not be participating in Minnesota State High School League. There's all kinds of ramifications to imposing our personal opinions and preferences on federal law into policy for this organization. So I don't know what else we do with that.
So what are you gonna do?
What am I going to do?
What is this board gonna do?
I'm
when
gonna
we
follow the
start
law.
having-
Maybe,
It's
maybe,
wrong.
sorry.
Oh, okay.
So
The
then
law
we'll
is
vote.
wrong. I
Well,
can't help that we're
I
in a
think
crazy
you're in the
world right
wrong
now.
place then, Deborah. I think you need to go up to St. Paul and start, sharing your opinions there. We're a school board.
I've tried
Maybe
that.
one of the questions we could ask
tried
is,
Not very far with Jeff Sinski's office.
is just what is our protocol in Owatonna School District? What do we do if a student comes and says, I would like to play on this other sport?
If I may, there's a prescribed process the Minnesota State High School League uses for that. It isn't just sort of there is a process that's designed to make sure that that decision is just not made, a hasty decision isn't made. But there is, Title IX is a non-discriminatory law, and
It
it's
is
the
not
way.
non-discriminatory. It used to be, but they crossed the line. It doesn't protect women in sports like it was intentioned many years ago. It just doesn't.
Deborah, this is a federal law,
I understand what you're saying.
and you
I
have an
do agree.
opportunity to vote.
Mr. Sebring, I would call the question.
Any further discussion? Nobody has introduced the motion yet, so I will ask somebody to please introduce the motion.
Yeah. I move that the board approve the revisions to the policies as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay?
Duly noted. Item C is the ratification of the tentative agreement with Local 147. Mr. Elstad.
I would ask Chris Pika if she's available for any questions. We did reach a tentative settlement with our custodial employee representatives. And I would actually, with Lori Bowles as well, if there were any questions that you might have regarding the tentative agreement, I would have you pose the questions to our two directors that facilitated the negotiation process.
Hearing no questions, would one of you be kind enough to introduce this motion?
I move that the board approve the 2023-2025 agreement with Local 147, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, custodial employees, and authorize the chair and clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the school board.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D would be the preliminary tax levy certification. We do have Lori Vols here to explain this. Mr. Elstad, if you would.
I'm just going to introduce Lori. She has prepared the tax levy certification for you. And again, this is a preliminary, knowing that the truth and taxation hearing will take place in December. So Lori is here to present preliminary information, so I'll turn it over to you, Lori.
All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Elstad, for your consideration is the proposed levy for the 2023 payable 2024 levy. And at this stage, it is a proposed levy that the board needs to approve. And then when we get to the final levy in December, it will be formally finalized with an approval. So I want to start out with some good news. This is very good news with our levy this year. And the fact that the increase is very small. It's only a 1.64% increase. And just to kind of, and in the introduction, I had a variety of statistics. Well, I'll go over that in a second. But one thing I want to point out that there are different categories in the levy. We start out with the general fund, and that's the category that we saw some increase there, and that is driven by an improved student count, which is good news. When our enrollment goes up, then we get better financial monies, state aids from the state of Minnesota. But there's also a tie because we have an operating referendum, and we also have a tie to part of the Gen Ed formula called local operational revenue. And since our enrollment did go up compared to last year's levy document, the student counts increased about 100. And so that is really good news. So really the increase, in a nutshell, the small increase we have in the levy is driven basically by the student count increase. And then also there was a decrease in the category prior period levy adjustments in the category LTFM. So those two things together with the increased student count, but then the decrease in the long-term facility maintenance levy category from prior period adjustment. Basically, in a nutshell, those are the main things of why the levy had an increase at all. So again, that is really good news. It's good for the taxpayers, and it's just a nice positive message that we could keep our levy so stable and at a very slight increase. Just as comparing to other Owatonna area public entities, the city of Owatonna apparently is increasing their levy by approximately 9%. In Steele County, property taxes were increasing by about a little over 5%. So that's also good news that our school district is at a very small increase. Well, that'll certainly help the taxpayers that we're at a very small level of an increase. Also, it's good news as far as the district has been fortunate over a many-year period to keep their levy relatively stable and with small increases. And I did a little research on that, the school levy has increased or decreased less than 2% in 9 of the last 17 cycles. So, that's been a nice steady statistic for the school district overall, over time. And another piece I wanted to emphasize is that with this proposed levy, I'm recommending that the board approve it what's called at maximum. And what that means is if MDE finds some slight adjustment they need to put through, and if that is, it might be a very slight, let's say, prior period levy adjustment. It could be a small amount. Technically, they still review things up through September 30th. At September 30th, they lock in the amount. So most districts do utilize the option to approve their proposed levy at this time in this month at maximum. That way, if there is some correction, it could even come to our benefit. Maybe they find a correction that's a negative and it'll help reduce this. It could go either way. Most likely, any straggler adjustments will be very slight, very small. So I just hit the highlights. Just kind of circling back to the fact that enrollment has improved from a year ago, the projection then. And we see it even now even with the enrollment update today that Missy Walter ran for me. We have some really good news, continue to have good news, even better news for the future throughout the school year. Our online program is up 120 compared to May 30th. We have our VVK program that has gone up by 27 due to an expanding, we had approved expanding of seats. There's some really good pieces of information. And of course, some of the online program improvement and enrollment has to do with that tuition agreement with Northfield and Albert Lee. But it's good news. So that is my summary.
Questions from anybody?
All right, I got one. I'll quit apologizing. I just have one. So when you say, well, two things. We do this, I think, every year about this time. I know you're fairly new to our district, but isn't that the cadence that we're doing this kind of preliminary
Yes, all school
approval
districts do.
about
Yep.
this time of year and then?
Yep.
And so when we say approve at max, is it the percent change we're really approving, or where is the maximum reflected, or how?
So what that means, we're using the word at maximum. So like right now with the run, it is this $19,308,556. So we're not approving this dollar amount or percentage technically. We're presenting it with the phrase at maximum in case there are any straggler adjustments. That's what that means. So that we're able to incorporate any adjustments.
Okay.
So in my experience, only rarely has my district approved a dollar amount rather than at maximum, and that is if we were under levying on a line item. That's quite rare, but once in a while, a district district might under levy an LTFM if they didn't have much repairs needed, which is, I mean, districts need the funding because they need to repair their buildings and keep them up. But that, in my experience, is just a very rare situation, but if it is, it might be something like that where you're under levying on a line item.
Okay.
Then you have to indicate a dollar amount.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Did that get your question? Okay. Anybody else? Would one of you be kind enough to introduce this motion for us?
I move that the board certify a preliminary levy, in the maximum amount provided by law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item E, assurance of the compliance report. This is something we do every year. Mr. Elstad, would you explain?
Yeah, so this is an annual, as you mentioned, this is an annual piece that you're asked to consider an approval of. The assurance of compliance report basically states that there, as you know, if you've been around school finance, there are only certain ways we are dedicated to spend dollar amounts. And so what this recognizes is that any federal or state financial assistance that has been provided to the school district, that we have in good faith put them all into the different buckets, representations by Minnesota statute.
Anybody have any questions? Somebody introduce a motion for us?
I move that the board approve the assurance of compliance report and that the superintendent or his designee sign and submit it on behalf of the district.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, duly noted. Item F, the middle school has a close-up trip scheduled for Washington DC. Mr.
Yeah, this
Olstad.
is an extended trip request. This actually is coming beyond the school year, so it'll be in June of 2024. Aaron Klecker is the representative from the middle school that is requesting your approval to take a group of our middle school students to both Washington DC and Philadelphia, which is part of the close-up program that we've been involved with before, so that students get to see government as well as different sorts of historical pieces in both Washington DC and in Philadelphia.
Do you have any questions?
I just want to mention that these opportunities are super cool. I have been on a plane 4 total times in my life. Each of those times was for a school trip, one to Houston and one to Disney World. So I just want to say that's super awesome that other people get these opportunities.
I want to say, as a student that went to the Owatonna Middle School, I'm incredibly envious. As a future history major, I'm even more envious. I went to a Twins game. I didn't get to see Washington. I didn't get to see the nation's capital in Philadelphia. I'm jealous.
Jace, if we could let you do it, I'd ask you to introduce
If
the
they're looking for volunteers, I'm a good chaperone.
If one of you be kind enough to introduce this motion.
Yeah, I move that the board approve the extended trip request to Washington DC and Philadelphia.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. There's also another trip, this with the FFA to Indianapolis. Mr. Elstad.
Yes, the FFA club in Owatonna typically goes to this convention. They take their officers to the convention, and so once again, it's in Indianapolis. And they're requesting, I think the dates are October 31st through November 4th. This is a great opportunity. I would add that this is the 100th year of FFA.
That's awesome.
So it is pretty cool.
Very cool.
Okay, any questions with regard to that? Deborah, do you have it up? Could you do the motion for us?
I move that the board approve the extended trip. Is this in Washington as well?
Indiana.
Well,
It's item G on your agenda.
I move that the board approve the extended trip request to the National FFA Convention.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item H, we have Bob Olson here tonight. And you saw or you heard from Mr. Elstad about the asbestos abatement in the old high school. Bob is here. Any further introductions with that?
No, I will let
Turn it over
him
to Bob.
introduce this topic. What we're seeking your consideration of approval tonight would be to approve this contractor bid, but I'll let Bob fill in.
I may bring Jace up to introduce this one. How would that be? Really exciting stuff. Well, anyway, as you know, we are looking at remodeling the old high school and tearing a portion of it down. You've already okayed that. Well, what we had to do was okay the abatement of the asbestos, which is always really exciting to get asbestos out of our old buildings. And just want to take a look, but we had a bid opening just the other day. And EnviroBait came in as the low bid of $588,500. And I had a smile from ear to ear when that number came up, because it's a great price. And it actually made me a little nervous until we made the phone calls and vetted them out, and they are 100% good with their bid. So the next closest bid was over $107,000 over that. And the spread between the low bid and the high bid was $400,500. So we're very excited to get this number from EnviroBait. So I ask that you would approve this.
Anybody have any questions?
Where are they out of?
Do you have any other questions? I don't. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Wasn't sure if their
Yeah.
location had anything to do with their pricing.
I don't know that. I can look it up for
That's
you,
okay.
but we did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bids, which was awesome. We were kind of anticipating about 3 or 4, and we had 7 come in. So I will check on that for you.
They are based out of Minneapolis.
Well, thank you very much, Google.
I appreciate
Perfect.
your
Yeah.
comments about vetting them too, because,
Yeah.
you know, when you see this price differential, you start to wonder, okay, what's
Right.
missing?
And we have used this company in the past. You know, they did the Wilson gym floor abatement when we took the 9x9 asbestos tiles out of there, and they did a great job for us. So we're pretty happy with what we got.
Good.
Any further questions? Elizabeth, do you have this one queued up? Could you do the motion for us?
Sure do. I move that the board award Envirobate the contract for asbestos removal for a total award amount of $588,500.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, gifts to the district. Mr. Elstad.
Yeah, as you can see from the report this evening, there are a number of gifts for homecoming. I think I did just some real brief totaling here. I think we have over $3,000 in support coming for homecoming. This goes towards float decoration, all of the other events that happen around homecoming. It's a real community feel. So just very grateful for, again, a philanthropic community that leans into our school district and supports our students. So.
Eric, do you have it queued up?
I move that the board approve the resolution of acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, if you would, roll call.
Yep. Elizabeth,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and I myself is an aye, 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Good meeting tonight, folks. Item 11 is to adjourn. I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Have a good night, everybody.
This is, oh, yeah. Go back, there you go, you're set.